Hello, everyone. It's 9:45 here in London. I'm TK, and this is Coach on the Rocks. Lovely to see you here. Thank you for tuning in, and hopefully everyone is gearing to start a wonderful week. Or if you're watching it a bit later, you already are having one. I had a lovely weekend, including a bit of Friday. Traveled a bit to visit my family, and it prompted me to think about something I wanted to talk about today. Also, a great article I read by a lady that I've tagged about authenticity at work. Now, if you know me and you've watched my show, you will know that I'm a huge fan of bringing your whole self to work and authenticity as it is. I can't stand being artificial, seeing people like pretending. It's just so wasteful and so phony. And, it doesn't help to build relationships, do great work. It doesn't help with creativity, so many things, right? I think authenticity at work became even more popular after the pandemic. I think people just noticed that, there's more to life than pretending to be someone else at work, obviously. So, they started showing up as themselves. But there's more changes that have been happening in 2020 in our society. Essentially, I think, and maybe it mirrors the situation that actually happened at the beginning of the 20th century. Things started to radicalize a bit. Right? There's more divisions people have about the way they look at the world and their political outlook. Let's call it that. Right? You can substitute anything, whatever you want to call it. Right? So you have situations where people coming in, being themselves, also bring themselves and their views to work, and it might become tricky for many people. Right? So, for instance, if you're working in a region that s- predominantly has a particular view, and someone comes in with a different view, right? It might feel disruptive. Or someone comes in, like I've seen a bit of a, I don't know, I haven't seen this video, but there was like a case where someone came in, boarded an aircraft with a red MAGA um, baseball cap, and there was one person really being outraged. Well, it's like not that the person with the red baseball cap was making anyone suffer, just demonstrating their political views, which one would say, especially in the land of the free, everyone has the right to do. But things like that will happen, right, from both sides. Or why do I say both sides? Because it's so polarized right now. It's awful, but it is what it is. I might not subscribe to it, but I think it's just important to acknowledge that people are being a bit more radical now. So what happens? How do you react, or how do you bring it to work? And what if people are a bit confused about that? And that's what the article that inspired me was all about. I think that can become tricky, but it also depends on, again, there is no one answer, and there is no one particular type of behavior. Now, I'm obviously repeating it over and over again, but I think this is one of the biggest, most important factors we try to help leaders to understand, which is reflect on what is the organizational culture you want to create. As a leader, it's your organization. As a people team, you are there to really help shape the culture. Now, has anyone asked the question, what is the culture you want to shape? It might not be what people necessarily your employees might want. It might be that you have situations where it's just something that doesn't really work. We've worked with a company that a big part of it is actually based in California, and they have a certain work culture there. You can say what you will, but this is how people work. And then they had an operation in the UK, and guess what? That was a bit of a conflict there. And what I'm always saying is like, okay, I might not necessarily think as a person, as a consultant, that some culture is possibly right for me, but if the leaders, owners, founders of the organization, people that set the tone, want to set a particular culture, theoretically it's their right. Thankfully, it's also the right of other people to choose if they really feel like this is not the culture they want to work in. Um, so the same might be if you want to instill a culture of authenticity and freedom and that all views are tolerated, that's fine. If you, for instance, are allergic to certain political or world views, I think what's really important is that you make it known. All right? The challenge is that if for instance you walk into an organization and it's full of people with similar views, it's best that as a leader, as a member of a people team, you subtly make people aware that that's what's happening, and as a employee, you are conscious of the fact that you will be working in such an organization. Now, interestingly, not many people do that. And it's very interesting how it's still a bit of taboo in terms of saying that, hey, in here we behave in a certain way. Theoretically, we have a great tool, this wonderful trial period. So this is why we have the initial 3 months for, people to feel each other. Some people, some organizations do a lot of interviews. So in the process of getting a person in the process of having the initial period, and in the process of onboarding, this is the moment where we need to have a conversation about, what is it like in here? How authentic do you want to be? And in this organization, and if you are authentic, what will be a possible reaction? Now, it's easy to say in companies that organizations can easily do that because they're smaller and it's easier to manage. But if it's a huge enterprise, it's not something that leaders can easily influence or leaders are able to do in a straightforward manner. This is why, even though it's their responsibility, I would definitely encourage to think about it really hard and do it really consciously, because you have the tools in a large organization. It's just that it's a very difficult ship to steer. Dare I say, it's a huge trailer train which you're trying to reverse with like 5 trailers, and the behavior might seem chaotic when you're trying to set culture in a large organization, but it isn't. And let us know if you'd like some help, or we're happy to help there. But interestingly enough, yes, we should bring ourselves to work, but we should also know what our work expects us to be, and have little illusion if our personal selves are not being accepted. Now, it's really challenging, and I can imagine it would lead to a lot of frustration. In fact, it has led to a lot of frustration from me too at one point, at certain points. Right, I've been. I had situations where, for instance, a more of a freelancer, I worked in certain organizations, and I had to work with, for instance, other consultancies which didn't match my values. Dare I say, I didn't last long. And honestly, I didn't last long. I couldn't be myself, and being the person that I was expected to be wasn't worth it. Is it ever? Now, these are some, Monday morning thoughts for you. Hopefully, you've enjoyed. Let me know in the comment. Let me know in a message what you think. If you'd like these kinds of topics, and I will see you tomorrow for the next episode of Coach on the Rocks. Have an amazing week, a great Monday, and bye bye.